Shit went bad real quick.
Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
Boy. What a fucking day. Both of the fucking teams that I had going to the finals got knocked out today. What a fucking day. Boston, we're going to get to the Boston game, the Boston and the Milwaukee game, because Boston grew up today, man. And I said in my previous upload that, playing in Boston Garden was going to be a tough one for Milwaukee. Like, just the history there, bro, that was going to be a tough one. You knew the crowd was going to show up. You expected Jason Tatum and them boys to show up. But just because you expect somebody to show up don't mean they're going to show up, as we saw tonight. In the Phoenix-Dallas series, a series in which no team had won on the road, the Dallas Mavericks picked the greatest of times to take a road win. Not only did they win on the road, they beat the shit out of the fucking Phoenix, and they waxed Phoenix. And I'm talking, people, because I'm going to just tell you, a lot of people was hitting me up, and a lot of people was like tweeting, but the tweets was basically meant for me to see. When Golden State got waxed by Memphis a couple days ago. And a lot of Phoenix fans was going nuts about that. Oh, how the turntables have turned. Boy. Phoenix, what happened? What happened? I mean, shit. They picked the absolute worst game to lay an egg. The absolute worst fucking game to lay an egg, yo. Like, that was on. I can't even believe that. I cannot believe what I just witnessed. Like, that was probably, Phoenix probably just had one of the worst game 7s of any sport. Like, I can't remember a game 7 or a crucial game like this that was like a game 7 type of shit where the team laid such an egg. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Phoenix was the favorite. Phoenix is the favorite to win the championship. Phoenix was the best team in the NBA this year. Like, this was unbelievable. And I said something in my last episode. I said, the weird thing about Phoenix is they were so good defensively throughout the year, but you come to the realization that was because they were playing good team defense. That same good team defense they played throughout the season has been non-existent in this series against the Mavericks. And boy, how the turntables turn. Because Dallas waxed that. I can't believe this. Bro, Nick Wright gonna be insufferable tomorrow, bro. I'm just telling y'all that right now. So if you somebody like me who don't really particularly care too much for Nick Wright, tomorrow gonna be a hell of a day. Because that motherfucker's going to be on one. That motherfucker's going to be on one. Because he called it. I give it to him. He called it. Now, I know this win right here is about to have everybody picking Dallas to beat Golden State. But I'm very confident in Golden State. I feel as though Golden State will not make these mistakes that Phoenix made. And what's so wild about Phoenix is the defense being as bad as it was. Like, yo, the snowball of how bad this defense was. Like, you trying to stop LUKA, but Brunson going off. Spencer Dinwiddie going off. And shout out to Dinwiddie and Brunson. For one, but all these dudes shot unbelievable from the floor. Like, Dinwiddie, LUKA, and Brunson had had well over 20 points. LUKA went for a 30-plus piece. And they all shot well over 50% from the floor. Bro, they shot over 50% from the three-point line, yo. As a team. Like, that was insane. Like, not to mention LUKA was killing them. Like, LUKA dead ass was in his bag tonight. LUKA came out like, yo, I'm the best player in this series. Y'all motherfuckers is not beating me, bro. I don't care that y'all at home. This series, obviously, it ends tonight, but it ain't gonna end with me going back to Dallas losing. No, sir. And you know what I think? This shows you how good of a player Paul George and Kawhi are. Because Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, they could affect this series because they could have defended LUKA. I think that's ultimately what the biggest problem in this series was. They didn't have nobody to defend Luka Doncic. Like, nobody could defend that man. Team defense wasn't working. You needed somebody who could legitimately, who was strong enough to stay in front of him, who was strong enough to deter him when he was trying to bang with him down low. They just didn't have nobody who could do that. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard is two dudes who can do that. So ultimately, and Devin Booker is a decent defender. Like, Devin Booker's not a, scrub defender or nothing like that. He try on defense. Just not, no individual defender on that team could have handled LUKA. And it was shocking that Mikal Bridges, coming into this series, I thought Mikal Bridges might have been able to do something. Yeah, he torched Mikal. He torched anybody they put in front of him. Like, straight up. They had nothing for him. Now, I'm almost certain the people they'll put on him in this next series against Dallas, and Dallas was 1-3 against Golden State in the season. Clearly, that don't matter because LUKA had never beaten Chris Paul and the Suns before, and he just beat these motherfuckers in 7. Was up by 46 points at one point in time in this game tonight. Won the game by 33, I think, but was a 40-piece basically the entirety of the night. They never trailed in this game. Drilling threes left and right. Like this, the defense, I really do think two things that really killed Phoenix in this series. The defense, because they just had no answer for LUKA. And Chris Paul's all of a sudden like this random decline for Chris Paul. Like, it's like he just got old. He turned 37. And he started playing like you would think a 37-year-old supposed to be playing like. Like, he stopped defining, father time or whatever. And he started playing like you would think a 37-year-old play like. But to me, those are the two biggest things that changed this series. Once Chris Paul basically had, 5 bad games in a row. And the defense had nothing for LUKA. Not to mention, in a series like this, see, this is what's confusing to me about Phoenix. This is why you had Devin Booker struggle. I mean, at one point in time in this game, for the longest, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton had not hit a shot. Like, they could not hit a shot to save their life. And I saw Shaq say on Inside the NBA, sometimes, he not going to kill the Suns because, this happens. Sometimes it's happened. You just have one of them games. And I get having one of them games shooting-wise. But defensively, they were atrocious for the last couple games in this series. I mean, all of the wide open shots that the Mavericks was getting. I mean, not to mention, the Mavericks missed a lot of shots that could have made this game even worse. Like, Golden State gonna have a real problem on their hand next series if they play defense the way Phoenix just played defense. I understand trying to stop LUKA and whatnot, and it's really hard when you don't have a Kawhi Leonard, a Paul George, who you don't have to commit multiple guys to LUKA. You could just have that one dude defending him for big portions of the game. And Golden State got Draymond Green, and I'm almost certain there will be times where Draymond Green is defending LUKA, fourth quarters. Like, they have dudes, like, I would put Wiggins and Clay on Brunson and Dinwiddie, And now obviously that's like you putting Curry on a dude who probably more than likely bigger than him, like a Powell or somebody like that. But the Warriors know how to do these type things. Like the Warriors went into that series against Memphis, and everybody thought it was going to be, terrible on the board because of how much bigger Memphis is. Golden State had 70 fucking rebounds in the closeout game. I mean, you can't explain some of the shit that Golden State does. Like, they are just a championship caliber team. They do what they have to do when it need to be done to win. So I'm expecting this to be a great series. Now, the thing that's really it's not really bothering me. I can't really wrap my head around it. I still don't know how great or good of a team Dallas is. Like, this is a huge win for Dallas. But to me, I can look at this series and say, like, this was a terrible matchup for the Suns. When you are exposed as far as, like, your team defense is not as good as it was throughout the season. When you get exposed in the sense that Chris Paul obviously is better than Jalen Brunson, but in this series, he was not better than Jalen Brunson. Couldn't guard him, couldn't stop him. So age looked to have caught up with Chris Paul out of nowhere, which is something that you didn't expect, but I guess it's fair to say that you should have had that in the back of your mind at all times when you got a guard as old as Chris Paul playing. But then you have the fact that Luka Doncic was the best player in this series unquestionably. Because I thought he was the best player in this series also. I know some people might have thought Devin Booker was the best player not in the NBA. But in this series, I didn't think Devin Booker was the best player in this series. But when you have all those, so it was a lot of, and I think I had said at one point in time on the show, like, if Jay Crowder continued to basically be y'all best player, it's no shot y'all gonna win, because if Jay Crowder was playing good and y'all was playing good, that'd be a different story. If it's turning out that Jay Crowder is y'all best player, like, that's a problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Boston Celtics today, Grant Williams was the leading scorer for the first time ever when he was in a game with the Celtics. And so he balled out, but Jason Tatum balled out. Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. Like, all those dudes balled out. So having Williams do what he did was just icing on the cake. But if Williams balled out by himself and Tatum didn't show up, and Brown didn't show up, and Smart didn't show up, but then you probably have what you have tonight. But for Dallas, I just thought that by the end of the series, and I said at the beginning of the series, I would be shocked if Dallas ended up winning one game. But it seemed to be we at a point where you just can't bet against Luka. Like, that's what it's starting to look like to me, because you could make an argument. Luka Doncic has been the best playoff performer in the NBA since he got to the NBA and started getting to the playoffs. Like, you can make an argument that he is the best playoff performer. The man averages 39 in game sevens. Like, and I saw an ugly stat tonight for Chris Paul where, like, he 0-5 or 0-6 in game 6s and 7s. That's a tough one. I hope CP don't retire, but he did look like he had got randomly aged, in this series. But I just thought ultimately at the end of the day, because the others didn't really step up, and it's bad when a team as good as the Suns is playing bad and you start to question the others who've been playing decent or good all year, but now you starting to question them and telling them, okay, now they need to step up, and it's crazy how the dudes on Dallas stepped up, but it feel like a lot of the dudes on the Suns still didn't step up. And I'm not talking about Jay Crowder, because Jay Crowder had a hell of a series. You can make an argument Jay Crowder was probably the best player on the Phoenix Suns this series, or the most consistent player for Phoenix this series, because Devin Booker had 2 bad games to close out this series. DeAndre Ayton had 2 subpar games to close out this series. I'll be interested if they bring him back next year. And what happens with that. But, man, the Phoenix Suns have a good core. That's what I'm saying. But one of the things that I'm seeing in Phoenix is those others. Those others on the team got to have either a more, I don't want to necessarily say defined role, but they got to do more in their role. Like, you got nothing from Mikal Bridges throughout this series. You got nothing from Cam Johnson basically throughout this series. You got you got nothing from Cameron Payne. You got nothing basically from Landry Shamet. All these dudes who made a difference throughout the season basically gave you nothing. And when LUKA started to take over the series, everybody else basically folded. Chris Paul, even though he is the leader of this team, he's not the best player on the team. That's Devin Booker. So while I understand people going to be trying to kill Chris Paul for this, I actually hold Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton more accountable because, and I don't give, me holding them accountable is not giving me them. It's not me giving them credit for them losing this series, because I give that credit to the Dallas Mavericks for beating them. But when you as young as Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton, you went to the finals last year, you've been a good team for about 3 years now. When is it going to be time for them to step up? People calling Devin Booker a superstar. These are the type of games you got to step up in. I don't care about your shooting percentage. That's something that I was talking about the other day. You have to have the audacity to continue to shoot. And I'm not saying that Devin Booker didn't have the audacity to keep shooting, but you know who didn't have the audacity to keep shooting? Chris Paul. Some of these games with Chris Paul, and that's why I said I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know if it was your age. So while I don't blame him a ton, because I'm getting to that in a second. I got this ADHD. I hop from one thing to another. But when it comes to CP3, I wish he had a shot more. I wish he had tried to be in attack mode more, because I feel like that would have made a difference. To me, too many times in this series, towards the end of this series, it just felt like Dallas could take breaks when they was playing Chris Paul because he wasn't looking to attack too many times. And that's the thing where, do you kill a dude because he take too many shots and he trying to win the game, help his team win the game with shots that you might consider bad shots, or do you kill the dude who refused to shoot the ball or who not taking enough shots to try to help his team win the game? Because I'm the dude who going at the dude who won't take enough shots. I cannot go at a dude who empty the clip in a closeout game like this. I can't. That's why I've really been trying to emphasize shooting percentages do not matter. This analytical world and shit like that with these people on TV who care so much about analytics and they kill dudes who don't, who score 40 points but take 35 shots to get the 40 points. Like, they kill dudes for that, when back in the day nobody cared about that type of shit because you just shoot till you win the game, bro. Like, nowadays when this has happened and dudes either say, they be like, oh, he took bad shots and that cost the team. Oh, he should took them bad shots. He should have passed to somebody. Like, you got to make up your mind. That's my only defense for James Harden. When motherfuckers get at him for not taking shots, but then you'll go at him when he ain't taking the shot. When he is taking shots, you're like, oh, James Harden, bad shot. Like, you got to go down swinging, bro. You got to go down emptying that clip. Because like I said, if you go down and you didn't take enough shots, like, I do think CP3 could have taken more shots in some of these games. Like, he could have just emptied the clip. And I think Dallas plays them better if they know that Chris Paul is looking to score. I think too many times towards the end of the series, Chris Paul didn't really look like he was trying to score, and Dallas realized that and played him completely different. Like, they didn't play him as if they was trying to stop him from scoring. They defended him like they was trying to stop him from setting up the offense and shit. And it worked. That's why I give Dallas a whole bunch of credit. The way Dallas's defense changed from like game 3 to the last couple games of this series was amazing. I don't think too many people paid attention to it because everybody talk about the refs. And listen, the refs, while I think they did play a huge part in some of these games, boy, it's hard to blame a ref when you get blasted like this in Game 7. Like, I just don't understand how you come out in Game 7 on your home court and get waxed like this. Like, that's... Like, the Warriors got waxed, but it wasn't in Game 7, and it was not in Golden State. Like, that's tough. And you look at this game, bro, and you know how I said the others for the Phoenix Suns who usually step up didn't step up throughout this series? Look at Dallas. Reggie Bullock, I think it's Maxey. So many different dudes on Dallas stepped up. Dinwiddie, Bronson, like so many guys stepped up to help Luka bring this bad boy home. To me, it's hard to see Dallas shooting the ball this great all the time, or even again, but it's not hard to see them playing this good because it feel like this is Dallas figuring out how they can be successful. Like this is Jason Kidd. This is like, I know Jason Kidd happy because this is like a perfect teaching moment. When you play like this, Luka can be the number one player. He can be the dominant player on this team. But when everybody else step up, when he get everybody else involved, when everybody else hit their shots, when everybody else play with confidence like a Jalen Brunson and Spencer Dinwiddie, they know that it's my time to take over when Luka not on the floor, when Luka is in foul trouble, or anytime it's their time. This is how we become a championship caliber team. This is a great learning lesson and a great teaching video. We just took the number one team in the NBA to 7 games and beat them on their home court. Not just beat them, we waxed that ass on their home court. Now, I'm not one of them people who, and I really do hate that people is trying to discredit Chris Paul and Devin Booker and the Suns for everything they've done just because they lost tonight, because this shit just happens. This is what happens in sports. The reality is only one team wins the championship at the end of the year. So I don't think it's fair to discredit Chris Paul or Phoenix and none of the accomplishments they've accomplished over the last couple years. I think they're going to have that similar feeling than how Golden State felt that 73-win season and how that ended. Ultimately, I think that's how they're going to feel. They're going to eat on this all summer. But I do think it will be hard for them to come back and get to this point, just because it's hard to get to this moment when you don't have like a Golden State Warrior type of team they had those years, or those type teams Miami, that LeBron had those years. Like, it's hard to get back because, in all honesty, as good as Phoenix was this year, a healthy Clippers team, to me, just because a healthy Clipper team is so hard, is a much tougher matchup for Luka and the Mavericks. Even though they done sent them to 7 games 2 years in the past, and Luka played great against them, that's just a tougher matchup because those 2 stars on that team is bigger dudes who will demand foul calls, unlike Devin Booker and Chris Paul at times. They can hit the shots just like Devin Booker and Chris Paul, but I think they are 2 dudes who will be more aggressive, in these type games. Like, I was shocked at how unaggressive Chris Paul felt throughout the majority of this game. I'm like, bro, it's a game 7, my guy. And then they got sloppy at one point in time where it felt like they was wrong game. I'm visualizing the Milwaukee game in my head. But this was shocking. This is probably one of the most shocking. Not only was the series shocking because I thought Phoenix was headed to the finals, but I said it the other night. I said this after they lost to Dallas, it kind of shook me. It kind of changed my opinion on this team because for that game 6 didn't really feel like it was the referees as much as it felt like Dallas's defense turned up and Phoenix's offense can't figure out what to do when Chris Paul can't run the show like he normally do, which is probably one of the smartest coaching changes Jason Kidd could have made when he realized we can really stifle this team if we fuck up Chris Paul's, before he get into his rhythm to set plays up and shit. We'll make everybody else figure shit out. And then once Chris Paul basically, declined throughout this series, it became a stop Devin Booker, but keep Chris Paul, like continuously hound Chris Paul, give him that physical energy at all times and wear him out. And it worked. Like, shout out to him. That's how that type of game plan, wear out those smaller guards or basically players that's not wing players. Wear out guards is not big guards like Alonzo or something, because that'll be the game plan next series against Golden State. I'm sure trap Steph Curry, be physical with Steph Curry, hound Steph Curry. I'm pretty sure that'll be the game plan for them in the next round too, as it is for every single team that plays Steph Curry or smaller guards. But it was pretty. I'm gonna tell you what was interesting. Rarely do you see Chris Paul be defended the way he was defended tonight, like, or throughout this series. Like, it reminded me of how teams defend Steph Curry on a regular basis, how they try to throw 2-3 defenders in front of him and shit like that when he crossing half court, how they try to hound him going up going up the court, because they don't want him to getting into the other people getting hit. They don't want this motherfucker to step into a shot or to get any type of open space or anything like that. And so seeing Chris Paul defend it like that, but not because of his scoring, but because they just did not want him getting in the offense set up, was brilliant by Dallas. And it was phenomenal to see how they capitalized on that. I mean, Smith, Dorian Finney-Smith, or I'm pretty sure I pronounced his name wrong. But so many different dudes on Dallas stepped up. Now, they got to do this again in the next round against Golden State, a championship team. This ain't a team that just got to a championship. This is a team that won 3 of them things. And I can see the media, and I pray, and I know that Dallas is not paying the media any type of attention, because I see the media is real down on Golden State right now, with the exception of Patrick Beverley and Stephen A. Smith. But I noticed that everybody in the media is real down on Golden State, and I pray that, LUKA and them boys don't go in there looking at the media. And I'm pretty sure Jason Kidd, a champion in his own right, won't have them looking at the media in those headlines, because this is a 3-time championship team. Draymond Green is a better defender that LUKA is the best defender LUKA will have seen throughout this playoffs. And it's not close unless he get to the finals and he faces the defense of the Boston Celtics. But in that sense, he still will not have seen a better one-on-one defender than Draymond Green. And then if he do get to the finals and he face the Celtics, then or the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler and Jason Tatum are tough matchups. Those are tough matchups. Boy, if LUKA and the Celtics get to the finals, it's officially the era. The young guys have officially arrived. They are officially here. They have officially taken over. But I do not want the Boston Celtics to win a championship. That's the Laker in me speaking. But what a fucking game from LUKA. What a fucking game from LUKA. I saw LUKA balling in this game, and I'm just thinking about him and Kobe's interaction on the sideline. I'm like, yo, Kobe is in... If you believe in that heaven and hell shit, I'm like, Kobe is up there just having a fucking blast looking at this Slovenian nightmare, bro. Like, this motherfucker is really out here just Bro, this shit was unbelievable. I don't think I done ever been this shocked at an outcome of a sports game in a minute like I was tonight. And this game really wasn't ever close. That's what was crazy. This game was never competitive. And you just didn't expect to see an uncompetitive Phoenix Suns team in Game 7 in Phoenix. It's absolutely stunning, bro. Like, I was floored, flabbergasted, flummoxed. Like, that shit was wild. That shit was wild. And I don't, where do you go next if you Phoenix? Now, obviously you don't break up the team and no nonsense like that. But I do think Phoenix's role players are good role players, with the exception of some like Cam Payne. I don't see his value, but Cam Johnson is a good role player. Mikal Bridges. I think you have to ask dudes to do more now. Dudes have to have more increased roles so they confident to be able to step up in these type of moments. Look at how the dudes on Dallas stepped up. They had the confidence that in these moments they would step up. They played without Luka Doncic in the first round, and that probably was the best thing that had happened for them in low key, because it gave them the confidence to know Utah might not be a Golden State or Phoenix, but they made the playoffs, and we just beat this team. The majority of our wins came without Luka Doncic. We learned how to win without Luka Doncic. It gave everybody else on that team confidence. And then when these dudes balling and you got Luka balling, well, my friend, you got yourself a problem. Because that's just too much swag to contain. And so Not to mention, Luka shot the ball. I already mentioned how all the dudes shot the ball great for Dallas. They leading dudes. But when you got Luka Doncic actually shooting the ball efficiently, because you know Luka going to shoot his shot. Like, Luka is going to try to score. But when he is scoring and he doing it at an efficient rate, see, this is the thing. Real scorers don't give a fuck about efficiency. I'm just telling you, hoopers don't give a fuck. These dudes should not give a fuck about efficiency. I don't believe they do. But when they realize that they are scoring and they are scoring efficiently, that's just going to give them the energy to keep it going. You know what I'm saying? That's why you see so many people take heat checks. You hit 3 shots in a row, boom, 4th one, heat check, launch that bitch. Well, imagine a leading scorer on a team or a Luka Doncic who, you know, he might struggle some nights, and so that might limit some of the shots he might take because he want to, you know, take better, smarter shots for team. Now the man starting out the game 6 for 7. You think that motherfucker ain't gonna take a couple shots? Now the step back free game, because I can miss 3 of these bitches and it won't matter because I'm shooting at such a clip right now and I'm doing it so efficiently. Now that's gonna hurt you. Now my efficiency will kill you because we already got our foot in your ass. 3 dudes on the team balling. The others are hitting their shots. Reggie Bullock go in and out of consciousness for some reason. I don't know what it is with this dude. This dude hit the ball sometimes, hit shots sometimes. I never seen this dude pass up a lot of open shots at times too. Is wild. But Reggie Bullock, man, what interesting player to watch to say the least. But you got all these other dudes doing shooting the ball efficient. You got the 2 other guys on the team. My 2 other guys who's come to the party with me balling. Now I'm balling too, and I'm shooting. Oh man, it's hell for you. It's straight hell for you. And Phoenix could not stop this shit at all. Like, Dallas scored the ball so efficiently, and it's so many different times where Dallas was wide fucking open for 3-pointers. I'm trying to tell you. Dallas looked a lot like Golden State. I started thinking to myself during the game, did Jason Kidd, was he on that Dallas? Was he on that Golden State coaching staff? Because, shit, Dallas out here looking like the Dallas Warriors. I'm like, that was impressive, man. And listen, big-time players do big-time shit in big-time moments, and that's exactly what Luka did. Game 6, Klay. Game 7, Luka. It is what it is at this point. Luka came to the party, and I see everybody tweeting and shit like, oh, the series changed after Devin Booker did this to Luka, and ask him about the Luka special, and they're going to kill D Book and Chris and CP tomorrow, man. Oh, boy, that's going to be crazy. But it's so many different things you can break down in this series rather than just immediately going at Book and CP. And obviously, they're the best players on the team, so you do supposed to hold them accountable. I still think people got to hold DeAndre Ayton accountable. And like I said, I do think, to me, because CP3, bro, the fact that he is 37, bro, you just should not be expecting a 37-year-old to carry the load that they usually had CP3 carrying. See, with CP3 there, bro, that's supposed to get Devin Booker and Ayton to the point where they are the leaders of the team and CP just a cherry on top. It's like I keep saying about fucking Anthony Davis. LeBron James got this dude over here, and this motherfucker was expected to take over the Lakers and for LeBron to be the secondary option at this point, and this motherfucker can't do it. It's not possible. He can't be the best player on the team. In that sense, LeBron fucked up. Because as great as LeBron is, it don't matter if he want to take a step back because of his age and whatnot and hand the keys to somebody. It ain't going to happen with AD. He ain't that guy. And I did not mean to get in here on a rant on AD, but, you know. Just look at what Luka is doing for Dallas, bro. Look at what Steph did for the Warriors. Look at what all these great players do for their teams and how far they get them. And stop it with these excuses for motherfuckers like Anthony Davis, who could never do anything with the Pelicans, bro. Like, just stop it, please. But congratulations to the motherfucking Dallas Mavericks, and I cannot wait for that series. Dallas, Luka Doncic, Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry. Oh man, it's gonna be a ball. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a fun series. It's going to be an absolutely fun series. I'll give my predictions on it at a later date. It's no purpose because I'm picking the Warriors because that's my squad. So I'm clearly going to pick the Warriors. But let's get to this other game, the competitive game on the day. The Bucks taking on. And you want to know what's wild? I was driving today when I was with my homie. And I told him, I was like, because I was just quiet and I was thinking about something. He was like, bro, what you over there thinking about? And I remember saying, it's crazy to me that they put the Bucks in the Celtics game first, because I was like, I kind of think that last game might be a blowout. But I thought it was going to be a blowout for the Phoenix Suns. Little did I know. But it ended up still being that way. So this game still should have been, well, actually, this game was kind of a blowout too when you think about it. Because Phoenix, I mean, the Celtics really had this game under. I mean, they was up 20 points in this game in the fourth quarter. So, I mean, really, to be all honest, in all honesty, both teams was blown out. But, you know, you can give Milwaukee an excuse. They didn't have Chris Middleton. And Chris Middleton would have made a difference. Like, I'm not going to sit here and act like Chris Middleton wouldn't have made a difference. He clear, and you had him all season, so it did hurt when you didn't have him. But, man, just focusing on what they did have and whatnot. Man, defensively, Milwaukee, I think and I saw somebody talking about how bad they were with Brook Lopez and the switching to Brook Lopez, and how, you know, Jason Tatum's ability in this series to get people to follow him inside the paint and kick it out with those assists, or sometimes he get the hockey assists. I agree. That's what made Boston so, you know, successful in this series. And that's one of the things that worked for them real great, when they could penetrate and kick it back out to the open dude and they hit their threes. And in this game specifically, so many, and it seemed like in both games, so many when a team is just drilling 3-pointers left and right, and it's not just one guy, it's everybody on the team is hitting threes, and you cannot, and so now you have to defend everybody. And that pressure start to set in. It's game 7. You getting tight. You like, oh, fuck, man. We losing by blah, blah, blah. The league getting bigger. And now you making mental mistakes, which is leading to actual mistakes on the court. And dudes is getting wide open, drilling 3 after 3 after 3. And it's like an avalanche. And that's basically what happened to both teams tonight. And Milwaukee, I think one of the things Milwaukee going to have to do, and I said this before, Milwaukee got to improve them role players, like I said, man. Like, I just don't think Milwaukee's role players is good enough. For one, I think they're going to have to talk to Giannis about switching up some things also. Because Giannis, if they're going to get the type of role players that they need for this team to be successful, Giannis might have to change up the way he play a little bit. Because the way Giannis play might make it impossible for him to get certain type of role players that could help this team be successful. Because, you know, he got to have a lane. You can't have nobody that's clogging up the lane and whatnot. But you also need... Giannis is not a shooter. So he's not going to be standing... You don't want him just standing around in a corner and shit like that. So it's kind of hard to really... Like, I know the type of players he needs. But Giannis going to have to develop a reliable jump shot. Like, he going to have to develop a reliable mid-range jump shot. He don't have to worry about the 3. So that's the thing. You worry about the 3, you shouldn't worry about the 3. If you can hit a reliable mid-range jump shot consistently and still get inside like you do, that's enough. And I think in this series, he resorted to, trying to just run people over. And I think that only happened because the points that Chris Middleton would have gave you, because he is a shooter and he operate from the mid-range, you miss those points. And while I love Drew Holiday, I done told you Drew Holiday is a star, hella underrated. That's not enough, especially when, and it almost was enough, but Jason Tatum played out of his mind in these last 2 games, and really that's what really made the difference. Jason Tatum was a star in this series, and Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown were stars behind and follow his lead. As in Al Horford, you got big games from the others. Peyton Pritchard hit big threes in this series. Al Horford had big games in this series. Grant Williams played great defense and had big games in this series. Like, so many different guys stepped up on this team. Great coaching. I mean, so many things happened in this series. And shout out to Boston and the coaching in the team, because after they gave away game 5, I think it was, at the end of that game, it could have been very easy for them to lose faith and be like, oh, it's over. You know what I'm saying? We just lost this game at home. We could have went up 3-1 in the series, or 3-2 in the series. I think it was 3-1, actually. We gave away a fucking game. Like, they could have been down on their luck, woe is me, and they didn't. They came back and won game 6 on the road and 7 in their building. And so shout out to Boston, bro. Growing up right before our eyes, I told you. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart have arrived. And I make sure that I put Marcus Smart in this thing too, because you cannot look at the Celtics and not realize how big a part of this team Marcus Smart is. The Draymond Green of this team, not to mention he is a better scorer than Draymond Green. He can shoot the ball better than Draymond, and he finished better than Draymond. Now, he ain't a better defender than Draymond, but he is a great defender. But a lot of reason is that because Draymond can defend centers on a regular basis, which still blows my fucking mind. That Draymond Green, like I say this all the time, but I still cannot believe it. Like, go watch Draymond defend some of these centers, and it makes sense when you see how he do it, because like it's like, bro, you have to have that type of relentlessness, that type of tenacity, that type of I don't give a fucking guilt to the next play, that type of hand play. It's so many things that he do right that we don't really take into account or we don't really appreciate enough. But it's fucking insane that Draymond give up that much weight, that much height to a lot of these centers and power forwards, and he defend these dudes on a regular basis, and he dominates them. I tell people all the time, one of my biggest reasons that I lost faith in Anthony Davis becoming the superstar that people thought he was going to become was because I watched how Draymond Green manhandled this man in these in the playoffs before. And I'm like, this is embarrassing that he is letting Draymond Green do this to him. And then he started to score pointless buckets to try to make it look like he did something. But at the end of the day, it was like Draymond Green dominated him for the majority of this game. And then you look at how Draymond Green defended Kevin Love throughout the finals and realized that he basically made Kevin Love a non-factor throughout every fucking finals Kevin Love participated in. Like, Draymond Green makes no sense. Just no sense whatsoever. And so, when Draymond retired, you could legitimately go back and watch his career and say he should have won more Defensive Player of the Years. Like, that, the dead ass. That's how great he is. And he done got to the point where it's not even that he just great physically anymore. Or like, oh, he can get there physically. Not. No, bro, this dude, mentally, he is on another level. It's kind of like Andre Iguodala. You knew Andre Iguodala was officially a elite defender because it just wasn't his physical abilities. It was how mentally smart he was on defense. Yeah, that's Draymond Green. And really, teams really caught a break with Andre Iguodala not being healthy for the Warriors. Like, nobody talking about that. Like, that's one of the most non-talked about things that I think is something that should be talked about. Like, Andre Iguodala being hurt is a big thing for the Warriors. Because if Andre announced tomorrow that he was healthy and he could play in the series against the Mavericks, I'm telling you, it would change everybody's opinion on that series, because now you got Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, and Andre Iguodala, and Klay Thompson that you can throw at LUKA. Now, I would try not to throw Klay. I would really try to put Klay. Now, I know you can't really do this, but I would try to give Klay Thompson the Curry treatment they used to give Curry before he became a far better defender. Like, try to hide Klay so he can, like, because I just want Klay to get back into his rhythm and whatnot, and I don't want him to have to focus so much on defense at all times, where I would much prefer his scoring. Because I believe you can plug other dudes in to try to stop LUKA. And while you can't truly stop players like LUKA, I would prefer Klay Thompson score for me than have to extend that energy on the other side of the ball. Now, Jason Kidd can make it so that that's not the case. But that's just me. Now, Milwaukee is also an interesting team in the sense that Milwaukee can do nothing in the offseason. And I can see them getting right back to this spot for the simple reason, if Chris Middleton is healthy, this is going to be a good team. But just because you don't have to do anything, don't mean you shouldn't, because you still could have won this series. And truly, Chris Middleton, I'm not really for the excuses. I'm one of the people who understand If you wanted to play this excuse game for injured players, then you could unlegitimize every single NBA championship ever won through the history of time, because there was players hurt throughout every single playoff run for teams, where you could say if this player was hurt, that team would have won this series. If this player was hurt or healthy, they would have won this championship. Like, so I'm not one of them people who get into that. I think that discredit, to me, doing that, which is fun to do when you hate a player who you feel like, oh, I hate the Warriors and they play all these teams that always got their best players hurt. What the fuck the Warriors supposed to do about that? Let's take Larry Bird's championship back when Magic and them boys was hurt in the final. Let's take back the championship from Kawhi in Toronto because KD and Clay and them boys was hurt. Like, if you one of them people, fine. Yeah, I'm cool with acknowledging, but in the shit but to discredit players, I'm not one of them people who get into that, because you could legitimately discredit every single champion throughout the history of sports if that's what you want to get into. The reality is, a part of sports and a part of winning championships is the war of attrition. Some people don't want to talk about, or there's something people do talk about, but they don't really break it down to you in the sense that that is also a part of the game. Like, you could keep trying to use it to make excuse. Oh, well, LeBron would have won if Kyrie and bro wasn't help. Well, the reality is they weren't. And I don't see Nick Wright with that same energy when he like, oh, well, the Warriors would have won if they didn't have KD and Clay. Like, so this is, though, to me, that excuse is used specifically when people have a bias towards something and they want to use an excuse as a bailout or something like that. Because the reality is, every single team is hurt every single year. Players get hurt throughout the history of ever in sports. So that just is what it is. I don't like to dive into that, period. But in the offseason, I still think, like, because I really think Grayson Allen don't really provide much for you, even though he did have, good little outbursts here and there. I don't think he's a reliable enough shooter, and he ain't a good defender. So you got him. You got Pat Connaughton, who to me is also somebody who is not as reliable as you would like to think. He is not a reliable jump shooter. He is also not a reliable defender. And I don't think them two dudes who really is worth, like, what you paying them for. You could fill those two spots with other players like PJ Tucker's, who you got on your roster. Who, I don't know if PJ Tucker not even on your roster. He in Miami. But those are the Jay Crowder type players. You know what I'm saying? Those are type players. Like, nobody rushing to sign Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen. That's all I'm saying. I think you, and like who the other dude who I've been talking about? Bobby Portis Jr. Like, listen, good dude, cool to the city. I guess the fans love him and whatnot. Don't really bring you too much on a consistent basis as far as what is he specialized in? Nothing. Sometimes he can be good from downtown for you. Sometimes he great at being an energy guy. Sometimes he great at rebounding for you. But he don't really do none of those things great. You could go replace him for somebody who is a great rebounder, which I really don't think is necessary when you got a Brook Lopez and a, Giannis Antetokounmpo on the floor. I think you could replace him with a legitimate knockdown three-point shooter, like a Wesley Matthews, who is a knockdown three-point shooter who can also play defense for you here and there. Now, I don't be relying on these 3-and-D guys to be good at both of them. They call them 3-and-Ds because, they'll have these years where they just great on offense as knocking out threes, and they great on defense as far as like deterring guys. But then you get them in these big moments, and they either lose that defensive prowess and just good at threes, or they lose the threes and just good at playing defense. So very rarely you get the, because even PJ Tucker more of a defensive dude, because he give you those side three-pointers here and there. But I just think those are the type of players that Milwaukee need to go out and search for now, because I just think they got too many dudes on the team who just really don't provide. Like, while they do help, like I said, bro, the other game, it was Giannis had 44 fucking points. The rest of the team had 48. Like, you can't be having shit like that. And I just think they got too many players who you have to rely so heavily that they, can bring you something to the party to help Giannis. And to be honest with you, with the fact that Giannis is even having to try to learn how to shoot jump shots and shit, it's coming from the fact that you don't have ultimately reliable Like, you got George Hill on the fucking floor, bro. George Hill ain't been good in multiple years, bro. And that's no shot at George Hill. I just don't know what George Hill is providing for you right now. And I just think that's the thing. Giannis got all these dudes looking better than they really is, because in the season, it's easy for these dudes to go off on a clip. Giannis is a hard dude to prepare for when you just playing multiple teams in an 82-game schedule. But when it's a 7-game series, and you can figure out how to slow down Giannis, and the others have to step up, and Drew Holiday not having a good game, and Chris Middleton is out or not having a good game, then these others, you know, they look at these teams who had their 3 stars step up, their 3 guys step up, and they had the others join the party. That's something that for Giannis and them boys, I think they could fix if they went out and got some better role players. And like I said, that's no shot at the role players they got right now. I just don't think the role players they have right now, because I just don't think the role players they have right now are good enough when you look at some of these role players on these other teams and how they stepped up for them. Now listen, like I said, Giannis and them boys come back next year, Chris Middleton healthy, could change the dynamic of the whole team, because then those role players take another step back into another role, and maybe they fit those roles better. But, you know, I saw what I saw, I said what I said, and now it is what it is. So, you know, don't hate me for it. But very interesting night. So the next series for Boston, they got Miami. That is going to be an interesting series, and I'm taking Boston to win that series, even though I do look at Jimmy Butler as a superstar. The reason I think that Boston going to end up winning this series is because Boston's defense, bro. Now, I want Miami to win this series. I really do. I want Jimmy Butler to get back to the finals and lead a team back to the finals, because, bro, it's just unquestionable that you would have to call that man a superstar at that point. And I think Jimmy Butler could go off on the clip. What's going to be interesting about this game is both teams play good defense. Both teams could lock in. These could be some low-scoring games, honestly. What's making me think that Boston could have an edge in this series, though, is and listen, Ime Udoka, this has been a great coaching gauntlet throughout this thing, but I think he about to coach against the best coach in the whole Eastern Conference. No discredit to Bud, but this is the best coach in the Eastern Conference. This is one of the best coaches in the NBA, Eric Spoelstra. So this is going to be a whole different series, in my opinion, just based off of Eric Spoelstra being one of, if not the best head coach in the NBA. And he will come prepared for. And honest to God, I think this is a better matchup for this team, for the simple reason you don't have to prepare for a Giannis Antetokounmpo. So you're not worried about that type of Giannis Antetokounmpo threat. And I just think when you cannot have to prepare for that, it changed the game plan, because it's easier to try to prepare for motherfuckers who, you know, not 7 foot with a fucking, who can dribble to an extent, can blow through the lane like a fucking bulldozer and shit. So this will be a more interesting series for them. But the thing is, Miami they rely on the team. But see, when I look at Miami's top 3 dudes, right? Jimmy, I don't know if Kyle Lowry will be playing, but, you know, Bam, and Tyler Hero, or insert any other third player. But I'm looking at the big 3 for Boston. If they come prepared, play the way they just played, I think Boston can win the whole thing, to be completely honest with you. Like, Boston just proved they took out. Listen, Boston is a team that is not led by champions, but they just beat 2 teams led by 3 different champions. And obviously both the Milwaukee Bucks is a team of champions. But Giannis, KD, Kyrie took them all out. This team is not a championship team, has no championship experience, and just did 2 very difficult things. And so that do kind of, maybe it's recency biasness that's got me really leaning towards the Celtics, but I do think this series will be played a little bit different. Because Milwaukee, to me, while Milwaukee is a good team defensively and they can shoot the 3, I think the Heat, and this is funny because this is a battle between the number 1 seed and the number 2 seed. Heat number 1, Boston number 2. So the number 1 and 2 seeds, everybody wanted to call these 2 teams fraudulent and whatnot. And it's very funny how these are 2 teams that got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So congratulations to both teams, first and foremost. But I think this could be a 7-game series too. I dead ass think this is going to be a 7-game series because while I think Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown could ball out and they could be ultimately the difference, Jimmy Butler's leadership, bro, and Eric Spoelstra's ability to fucking coach basketball, that to me would make up the difference from that third mystery player stepping up for them. Because I expect Bam to step up and be good. I don't know if Kyle Lowry going to be playing in this series. I expect Jimmy Butler to ball out. And I expect the others for Miami to be the others and do what they're supposed to do. This is going to be a great series. I do believe Boston has the better all-around team and the better collection of talent. And I'm pretty sure Boston will be favored going into this series, even though they'll start this series on the road. But it'll be interesting because I would think Boston would be favored because they got Tatum, Brown, Smart. Yeah. I'll be shocked if Miami is favored in this series. But this definitely feel like a 7-game series. Boy, at the beginning of the season, you didn't think it was going to be the Warriors. The Warriors. You didn't think it was going to be Golden State, Dallas in the Western Conference Finals taking on, in the fucking Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. You didn't see that coming. Everybody thought it was about to be Lakers, Nets. One team didn't make it, the other one was swept. The only team swept in the playoffs this year. Boy, what a year. It's been a great playoffs. It's been a great night. And with that, I appreciate y'all for joining me on another episode of Kicking It with Saint. It's been a wild Game 7. Day of Game 7s, bro. The Game 7 spectacular. Boy, what a day. I enjoyed myself. Even though both Game 7s was basically blowouts, bro. You just did not see that coming, especially that Phoenix one. But with that, I appreciate you for joining me. Tell somebody you fuck with them, mate. Tell somebody you love them. Give my Dukes a kiss on the forehead. Tell her you love her. Possibly cook her dinner, take her out, something like that. You know, buy Pops like a new screwdriver or something. If he a cigar smoker, get him a nice cigar. I don't smoke cigars, so I couldn't really tell you the brand to get him or nothing like that. But you know, Saint out.
How the fuck I pay a couple card notes and ain't even whipping? How the fuck I'm putting food on the table while I ain't living? Cursed from being alone with these dreams of a happy home. So when I think it's really love, I give them anything they want. I got stupid shit I did as a kid defining me lately. When I try to open up a new chapter, they still hate me. My mental, my only drug, so I'm doing this shit alone. Last time I fought depression and she got me on my zone. One bad move for thuggery, hit record from luxury. Pop said some shit that stuck with me. All it take is a mustard seed. Yesterday I caught $40 to buy those. Homie